Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Friday, and all of our guests today, including Ray Ferraro, standing by, brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Book your next corporate or private event at the Bayside Oceanfront Resort in Parksville. Whether it's a small, intimate event or a large gathering of up to 100 guests, the Bayside ready to accommodate. Choose from their extensive banquet menu created by their talented chef with focus on fresh, seasonal ingredients. Call 250-248-8333, 8333, Rick, or visit BaysideResortParksville.com. Joined now by Ray Ferraro from ESPN, and as of this week, Canuck broadcast on Sportsnet. Ray, thanks for doing this. Long time no talk to. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I hope you guys are good. I'm like everybody else. It's in the hockey world, it's like it's a long summer, and then it feels like it comes at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we're at camps and all that stuff, and pretty quickly going to be to the good stuff, which is awesome.
What does it mean for a BC kid to be involved with the Canucks like this, Ray?
Yeah, it's funny, Donnie. I was telling somebody, like, I never dreamed of being a broadcaster, right? Like, my dream was to be a player, and then I got to do it, and it was so great, and just everything that I could have imagined, and then I kind of literally stumble into this, and it's been 20 years, and I've always thought in the back of my head there would be a way that I would be able to be involved with the broadcast, but I didn't really know how. And so this I think is a little illustration of it, is that when I was with Sportsnet the first time, I was doing the Oilers games. And as you know, we talked a lot about, I didn't really love that I had to fly to Edmonton to do the games and, lived in Vancouver. It got to be it was a tough puzzle to fit. I had a young family and all that stuff. So my contract was coming up, and I said to the management at the time of Sportsnet, I said, look, they wanted me to stay there. I had a chance to go to TSN, and I said, look, I'll stay if you can guarantee me whenever it is that John Garrett retires that I would be the next voice. And they said, no, we can't do that. Well, that was in 2007. I didn't know Cheech was going to work for another 20 years, right? I don't. How would I know? And I was so naive to the whole TV business anyway. And so when the chance came, I was like, I got to see if I could make this work, because like all guys our age, Donnie, we started watching right when the Canucks came in, and it's some of I was a Bruins fan, and yet when I played in the backyard, the guys that you quickly became familiar with were the guys you saw on TV all the time. And that was the Canucks. And like one of my earliest Hockey Night in Canada memories is Don Tannehill shooting a puck, scoring a goal on a Saturday night, and it went through the net. And I always remember that. I don't know why I remember that. I couldn't tell you why, but that's one of my first earliest Hockey Night in Canada Canuck memories.
Andre Boudreau, 5-on-3 goal versus Chicago for me. Canucks were shorthanded. Ray, did you, and I think I know the answer to this, we talked about it all those years ago, did you want to play for the Canucks back in the day, and did you ever come close?
At the end of my career, so it's funny, it was so different. Players didn't really feel, or certainly I didn't feel, that I had the cachet to say, I want to play in Vancouver. I was just, you're playing along. I was in New York for a long time after Hartford. Then I went to LA. And then by that point, I'm, hanging on. There was nowhere really to play. And I went to Atlanta, and I came to the end of my stint. I was now in St. Louis, and I wanted to come to Vancouver. I thought if I could play in one place, my kids were moving back to Vancouver at the time. We're now 35 and 32. And I was like, if I could play, it would be here. And you got to remember it was 2000 and 2000 era, and little centermen weren't high on the marks for teams. And the Canucks had Cliff. Cliff was a significant player for them through those years, and they weren't going to add another little guy. Like, that wasn't going to happen. And so any chance that there would have been around that time, the late 90s, early 2000s. And, it just never worked. I mean, I would come to Vancouver and play, and my dad and half my family and some friends would always come. It felt like a different game for me coming here, especially in the Coliseum, because, that was early in my career. That was like, I remember walking out, and there would be literally guys I went to high school with 3 feet away, where you walked out and they'd be like, "Hey, Razor, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, I haven't seen him in 5 years. He's now going to UBC." I know.
Hey, Ray, one playoff appearance in 8 years in Vancouver. This fan base deserves so much better. Ray, Jim Rutherford said the other day, Canucks are a playoff team, Ray, if everything goes well. Do you agree?
I do, and I do agree with everything going, everything has to go well, because just think of how many teams are really saying the same thing. Even if they don't come out and say it.
Yeah.
Look at Calgary, right? Calgary has a pretty good team, and things went south. They're like, yeah, if our defense is a little better, if we have a little more positive vibe around our team, if Markstrom finds his game, like, everybody's got 4 or 5 ifs to it. And, as I was doing this, and, and of course I'm well aware of how much angst there always is, around the Canucks. So when I was playing for the Islanders at the time, in 1994, the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, first time in 54 years. So unbelievably, that's 29 years ago. So they've won the Cup one time in 83 years. And for about 40 of those years, there were 6 teams in the league.
Yeah.
Like, it's bloody hard, harder than people would imagine to win. And so I look at the Canucks this year, and I think it's a far deeper team. It's a really skilled group. They should be faster and more engaged. Clearly, they're going to be more organized defensively. You could see that at the end of the year with Talk and with Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar, and the way they dialed that back in. Of course, it's critical that, I think Demko's one of the top 6 or 7 goalies in the league, and it's critical that he's healthy and the Demko that he usually is.
Ray, Vancouver loves contract stories. Patterson says he's going to wait. What are your thoughts when the star player says, I don't want to sign right now, I want to wait to see how things go, and then I'll decide after the season?
Well, I think it would be better for the fan base if he signed last Thursday, and everybody would be much happier. Is it ideal? Probably not. But the one thing is there's leverage points to contracts, whether it's a star player or not. If he wants to wait, he's got that leverage. The Canucks have the leverage that at the end of the year, he's not an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
A team with a real pressure point is, even though he's not of the same stature, is Toronto, because at the end of the year, William Nylander's an unrestricted free agent.
Yep.
And he can scoop. And man, you don't want to be having to make that decision somewhere along the line. Nylander's a fabulous player. I think I know there are times he might look a little frustrating, but I think he's almost criminally underrated. And I don't think people understand how important he is there. If you look at the guys that have had good playoffs or not, he generally has. And he's coming off a big year as well. For Patterson, he's the centerpiece of the team. Him and Quinn are, they're the building blocks you look for forever. Yeah. And you have them, and you want them signed forever. But I do look at the Matthews contract, and I think those contracts where players leap into the 8-year deal, they might not be as much on the table from the player's side as they were a few years ago. With the cap going up, a player like Patterson might easily say, look, I got 100 points last year. I think I'm going to get 100 points for the next 3 years. Why would I sign for 8? And so I think the dance becomes more complicated, but a lot of that is from the players using the leverage they have of when unrestricted free agency pops up.
What's your schedule going to be like, Ray? Because you're still working for ESPN, because we're thinking about getting you as a daily guest, just so you know.
Yeah, that might be a little tight. And so let me explain this a little bit, because I know it's been misreported, which kind of bothers me a little bit, but because, people could just reach out and ask and I would have told them. But I have 5 years left on my contract with ESPN. Mm-hmm. So I've got 5 years on my contract. I'm not leaving. So this year I can only do games that are regional. I have a clause in my contract with TSN that expires in April. And so I'm only able to do games that are regional games. So if a game were picked up by the national Sportsnet channel, I can't do that. So I think I got 11 until Christmas, and I hope to do in the 20 range this year. Next year will be more, certainly from my hope, in the 30-ish range, somewhere there, 30 to 35 next year. But this year I can't do any that go outside of the province.
Well, it's great to have you on our show, and I know everybody agrees, Ray. It's great to have you as part of the Canucks regional broadcast at the very least. Thanks so much for doing this, Ray. All the best.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I play a lot of golf with Murph and Shorty, and so I think we will have some fun. I look forward to working with those guys. I've been hoping to do this for a long time, and just thrilled the Canucks want me to do it. And I look forward to broadcasting at home. I think this is just going to be awesome. I really look forward to it.
Outstanding. Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it. We'll get you back on soon.
Well, yeah, I enjoyed the last few days of summer, guys. And,
yeah, you bet.
We'll be on soon.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it.